All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice exam series where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exams. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Two children are told to make their bed in the morning while their mom prepares them breakfast. The mom keeps track of who makes their bed and who doesn't, and then rewards them at the end of the week based on the data she collected. How is the mom likely able to make breakfast and measure this behavior? We have a measurement question to start, and in this situation, we're looking at the mom measuring what exactly? Well, the mom is measuring the kids making their bed while she makes breakfast, and she has to somehow keep track of who is making their bed and who isn't while also preparing breakfast. Now, how is that possible? How can someone measure a behavior while also being in a different location and doing something else entirely? Well, there's really only one good way to do that. And what would that be? How could the mom, once again, be making breakfast and at the same time measure the behavior? Well, what seems to be the only way to do this is not so much measure the behavior, but to measure the outcome. In other words, the product. It's quite easy to go in and check to see, is the bed made, is it not? And if the mom can do that, she can very easily keep track of who's making their bed and who isn't. So if that's how the mom is making breakfast and measuring the behavior, what is that called? A, discontinuous measurement. So with discontinuous measurement, that would be partial interval, whole interval, and momentary time sampling. And even though those three measurements are considered discontinuous, there is still some observation involved. And so it's still going to be challenging for the mom to do both of these things. What about B, frequency recording? Well, frequency recording is continuous measurement. And with continuous measurement, you have to be there throughout the entire behavior. That's the whole point of continuous recording or continuous measurement, is we are recording every single instance of behavior. So the mom is not going to be able to do both. C, using indirect reports from her children. Now, how accurate will these reports really be? Maybe they're accurate, maybe they're not. Is there a better way? Is there a more accurate way to get better data rather than just asking the children if they made the bed or not? Well, sure. So you can use permanent product. And permanent product is great in this situation where you don't necessarily need to measure the behavior. You're really just worried about the outcome. And the mom's just worried about the outcome. She just needs to know, is the bed made? Is it not? So how is the mom likely able to make breakfast and measure the behavior? Well, D, permanent product. 84. Jonas's client wanted to learn a joke that he could tell in situations where he wanted to attempt to be funny. Jonas taught his client this joke until the client mastered the delivery. Jonas then mastered the skill and moved on. 3 weeks later, Jonas asked his client to tell him that joke that he learned. What was Jonas testing for? All right, we're looking at Jonas's behavior and what he's testing for relative to what? Well, relative to Jonas's client. And so Jonas's client wanted to learn a joke, and so he could be funny in situations. Jonas, technician, taught the joke, and then the client mastered the delivery. Subsequently, Jonas mastered the skill and moved on. So we mastered the skill. We've stopped teaching the skill. We've moved on. Now, 3 weeks later, Jonas said, well, hey, tell me the joke. So what do we call it when we're checking to see if a skill is still there, even though we're done teaching it? What do we consider that idea? A, response generalization. Well, with response generalization, we're looking for different forms and variations of our responses. Jonas is still asking for the same joke. He's not looking for a different response. He still wants that same joke. What about B, maintenance? Absolutely. Jonas is trying to see, has that joke maintained? I've stopped teaching you the joke. We haven't worked on it in 3 weeks, but I'm still going to ask you to engage in that response because that's what we need to test for, because we want to limit the amount of skill that is lost. So Jonas is testing to see if maintenance is occurring. What about overgeneralization? Well, overgeneralization occurs when a skill happens at the wrong time and the wrong place or happens too much. If the client can respond to Jonas's request for the joke, They're not overgeneralizing, they're just responding to the request. So what Jonas is really seeking is that his client is maintaining the ability to tell the joke. Jonas is testing for B, maintenance. Maintenance is when a skill remains even after teaching is done. 85, you, a behavior technician, attend a team meeting for a client whose behavior has increased in the last month. You are asked to describe the function of the behavior. Which of the following responses would be best? Now, let's not overcomplicate this, right? We're looking for the best response describing the function. And so what are our four functions? Our four functions are escape, attention, tangible, and automatic. Meaning, out of all these responses, the best response has to include one of those functions. So you're the behavior technician. We're looking for the best response describing the function. The response has to include a function. So A, the client repeatedly grabs Play-Doh or putty and opens and closes their fist when they are bored. All right, so regardless of what we said there, are any of our functions included here? No. The function is the reason the behavior is occurring. We have four main functions. Bored is not a function, so we're not describing a function in A. B, the client will grab Play-Doh or putty and squeeze very hard throughout the day for attention. All right, this is better. And why? Well, we have a function. We have attention. So we're actually describing the function. B is better. Read all your answer choices. C, the client will grab Play-Doh or something similar throughout the day for control. Is control one of our four functions? It is not. Do not mistake control for a function. It is not a function. Don't mix that up. And then D, the client will grab putty or Play-Doh and engage with it for hours at a time. We're not describing the function, right? So you want to make this as simple as possible. They're asking you to describe the function of the behavior. So you have four responses looking similar, some kind of worded strangely. None of that matters. If you read the question and understand the question, you're just trying to describe the function. So the only response you can pick is the one that contains the function. And the only response that contains the function is B. This is a very good teaching question, how you need to approach the exam. Understand the question first, simplify it, and it's going to become a lot simpler. Brandon is with his client at the client's house when suddenly the client starts throwing objects around the room. The client then starts to become aggressive, which is not typical for this client. What is the first thing Brandon should do? All right, you might find yourself in this situation as a technician. You are, or Brandon in this case, is at a client's house and the client's throwing objects, right? So the client's engaging in these behaviors. The client then becomes aggressive, which is not typical. And when things aren't typical, there's a good chance it might not be written into the plan. However, you're there, you have to react. And so you have to remember a few key rules in situations like this. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So what is the first thing Brandon should do? Objects are flying, client is aggressive, not typical. A, contact his supervisor immediately. Yes, absolutely. Brandon needs to reach out to his supervisor as soon as possible to address this, to let them know this is occurring. But even before that, what's our number one priority? Even before we reach out. Number one, always do no harm, or B, keep the client safe. Above all else, is everybody safe? Is the client safe? Only when everybody and the client are safe should we go on to contacting the supervisor, getting the parents, following the behavior plan. But we do not skip keeping the client safe to get to these other pieces. Now, all we know about this situation is objects are being thrown and the client is aggressive. Okay, that could mean a lot of different things. But no matter what, regardless of your situation, number one priority, above all else, is keep client safe. So when we ask what the first thing Brandon should do, you have to keep the client safe. Same with C, contact the client's parents immediately. Reaching out to the parents if they're home, right? If you're not at the clinic. And in this case, Brandon is at the house. So he has to obviously get the parents if it gets too extreme. But maybe it doesn't get to that point. Maybe Brandon can get it under control by keeping the client safe and moving on. And then D, follow the behavior plan. Well, if this is untypical or atypical for the client, there might not be a behavior plan. And in that case, you've got to use your best judgment. But before you judge anything, you always have to do no harm or keep the client safe. Which of the following answer choices is an example of maintaining client dignity? Now, you might get asked about client dignity. And when we say client dignity, we mean we want to treat our clients regardless of age, development, disability, skill level, like anybody else. We want to treat them with respect, and we want to give them the respect they deserve, no matter what. So you treat them like you would treat anyone else. So we're looking for an example of maintaining client dignity. A, allowing access to necessary food and water throughout the day. Well, absolutely. Now, there are stipulations here, right? Because we might sometimes withhold food, snacks, and that kind of thing as reinforcement, but you can't withhold meals, right? If they are necessary food and water, just nourishment, you can't withhold those things. That is undignified. B, using treatment plans that are reinforcement based. What do we mean by that? We mean we always start with reinforcement first, and then we move to punishment if necessary. But using treatment plans that are reinforcement based are dignifying. C, providing privacy when able for bathroom and dressing skills. Absolutely. Even if you're teaching living skills and independent skills, which we do a lot, if your client can dress and go to the bathroom in private, we should afford them that privacy whenever possible. So, which answer choice maintains dignity? Well, A, allowing access to food and water throughout the day. B, using treatment plans that are reinforcement based. And C, providing privacy when able for bathroom and dressing skills. These are things you would do for any person regardless of age, disability, or developmental level. So all of them are dignifying. Our answer is D, all the above. Relative to the technician-supervisor relationship, which of the following is not true? So let's think about our technician-supervisor relationship. That's you and your BCBA, your supervisor, whoever's involved. Which of the following is not true? So what is not true about that relationship? A, technicians should actively work to implement feedback provided by supervisors. Should you work to implement feedback provided by your supervisors? Absolutely, that's part of the task list. You are required to implement your feedback given by your supervisor. Now, you can ask questions about it, but you should do your best to implement what they tell you to do. B, technicians are crucial members of the support team along with supervisors. 100%. You're just as important as a team member, as a supervisor. You have a vital role and you are crucial to that team. C, technicians should prioritize implementation and data collection. Yes, your number one role is implementing behavior plans, and you want to be prepared for data collection. So, which of the following is not true? Well, all of these are true. You should actively work to implement feedback. You're a crucial member of the support team, and you should prioritize implementation and data collection. After a meeting with parents, your team decides that the next skills to target include a list of independent living skills. If these skills are going to be taught using a chain, what needs to be done first? Pretty straightforward question here. We're going to teach a skill, independent living skills, using a chain. And so chaining can be forward chaining, backwards chaining, total task chaining, any of these chainings, right? But before we can teach the chain, what do we need to do? What needs to be done first? A task analysis. Yes. How do we create that chain? Well, we have to analyze the task. And your supervisor will be leading that, and you might be assisting on that. But before we can get to a chain, we've got to analyze the chain. So what needs to be done first? A task analysis. We can't forward chain, we can't backwards chain, we can't total task chain until we've task analyzed, right? And a task analysis is when you take a skill and you break it down into steps that are teachable. So if you're going to use a chain, what needs to be done first? A task analysis. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Make sure you subscribe for all of our video updates. As always, let us know when you pass so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.